Hey, how are you? Well, welcome to this Happy Week for World Hack Week. This is my first stream for this Happy Week, and I am so excited to be back one more time with you. Great hacker community. So, I was trying to give some time for you to pass the ad wall in Twitch, but I think like 5 minutes it's good enough. We are going to give a little bit more time before we start for all to be able to join. But please, in the meantime, help me checking into this event. So it's event.mlh.io/events 1245.1, right? Let me verify that. Um, hmm. Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah, it looks it is the check-in. So, um, well, let me start also sharing my screen, and I'm going to do a little bit of the introductions, and then we can start. Uh, share the whole screen because I am going to. Okay, perfect. Yeah, well, the whole screen is going to be shared. You know what? Give me a second. I think I could do that better. And instead of I can get a second monitor. Just give me a second and I'll be back. It will help to the rest to join us, right? So I'll get the second monitor and I'll be back. Plus, in the meantime, let me know here in the comments if you're excited, like say for the session. Excited to learn, it says Oyashwi. Perfect. Hi, says Susan. So great. I'll be back in a blink of an eye, right? Hey, and I am back. Sorry. Well, that will be enough time for us to join. So now let's start. And let me share the whole screen. Perfect. Oh, I think you're not seeing it yet. Right. So let me add this to the stage. And well, this is Get Good with Git. Also, I can, for what I know, remove these from StreamYard and now just present with the sharing of of Firefox. I mean, like the full screen here. What is the option? Okay, perfect. Like that. And here. Perfect. And here am I. Great, great, great. So let's start with this Git Good with Git. I have your comments here on the um, other screen, so that will be perfect. I can now watch all your comments while I present. Lumini give us a great cat. We have some hays and other hellos. So I'm so excited to be back with you people. I'm like excited to attend in midnight active hours for a real code in India. Yeah, that's fair. I'm just here to enjoy the stream, network, and help out folks. That's amazing. That's the attitude. Hey, where to get MLH fellowships? Oh, how to get? That's a great question. You can visit mlh.io. I think it's /fellowship, and you can find more information about that. There are certain times where you can apply. I mean, I think all the time you can apply, but the batches are for, I think it's 2 per year, but I don't want to lie. I totally don't want to lie. And that will be a better question in our Discord. Actually, in Discord, there's a specific section for fellowship questions, so they can help you out more with that, right? Um, Hello, excited to get in commit level. Malik says, "Hey Alberto, hello." So a lot of messages. I really love it. Let's get started. Howdy guys. How good morning, evening, everyone. For me, it's yeah, I don't know. Midday. It's 12 in the morning or in the late. I'm not sure. That's confusing for me. Uh, but yeah. I love to see your comments, people. So keep posting on the comment section. I'll be reading them while I am presenting. This it's Git Good with Git, an introduction to branching, merging, rebasing, and resolving conflicts. So you don't worry about the QR code here. It leads to our page, so you can take a picture of it or open it in a separate tab, and I'm going to start presenting, right? First, oh no, what happened? Sorry about the hey I'm name. I thought I updated that. I should uh, do something wrong here, but I'm Alberto. I'm not name. I'm Alberto. I'm your coach at Mainly Hacking. I'm from Mexico. I use he, him pronouns, and I also am a GitHub campus expert. And why I choose to say this, why I choose to mention this, well, it's because it's really, really relevant for the Git session we're about to have, right? A few notes before we start. Oh, I think I'm not supposed to be blocking here, so I'm going to move my head to the top. We like to say thank you all for attending. First things first. Then during this session, we're going to do an introduction to GitHub, get access to the GitHub Developer Student Pack, which is very important, and that's why I mentioned about before the campus experts. Um, we are going to learn how to use Git, the virtual control system, and we are going to make a walkthrough to using Git in GitHub, right? Um, so again, a lot of comments. I really love that. I think this is because we're all starting in the API week, right? So we have a lot of attendance. Um, will I be able to get all the basics for Git team collaboration here? That's the intention. That's one of the focus of these sessions. So um, I know it's a short session. It's supposed to be 1 hour, and there's a lot of information to process. But this will introduce you to all the basics in Git. Then, if you want to explore more and have like further knowledge, I will share with you a lot of resources. Actually, besides the slides, I'm going to be sharing a lot of knowledge and a lot of resources and a lot of tips on how I learn to use Git, and not also Git, but uh, great how to say that, conventions, tools for lettering, etc., etc. So great question here. Oops. Good afternoon to you. Yeah, no, no worries. And good night from this side. Yeah, it's a really big difference in time zones, right? But again, thanks for attending. Oh, and what application do you make dogs? They look so cool. Oh, these ones, I'm not sure. These ones are provided from the team, but for my workshops, I use Mark, which is a tool that allows you to generate from Markdown files the slides in HTML or PDF. But I will talk more about that in my own workshops, right? Um, which I have one later today. Well, one day for me, that will be at 8 p.m. my time zones. That's 10 ET time. I'm not sure IST time, but yeah. Honest mistake, shares made. Yeah, no worries. Which honors? Oh, yeah. Hi. Yeah, honest mistake. Yeah, but the name I'm thinking of. But yeah, thank you. Hi name. That's funny. He's using Google Sheets with some nice template. Of course. I'm guessing yes, because this is a collaboration with the GitHub Education team, so they probably made this, and well, like the guidelines they follow and the image that GitHub wants to transmit, it's always on point, like really, really great. Hope we will bring beyond Git basics and get some advanced stuff using Git. Well, I can make a little more advanced hints, but the main intention here is for learning the basics in Git. And you will be surprised because sometimes we think we use Git like in the good way, and then you realize you're not using Git in the good way. So stay and make some knowledge for yourself. You can say like, oh, okay, I learned a lot of this session, even though I thought I was just in Git the good way. Some hi. Git is very important in the lives of every programmer. Yeah, I have to, how to say that, remark this. No one escapes on this. Okay, cool. GitHub is the best thing that happened in development community. Yes, yes. Actually, I can share with you some stories about GitHub and Git, but that's during the session, right? So now that we run out of comments, but hey, keep posting. We can continue. And I love this phrase. Git is cool, and GitHub it's cooler. And I was watching the stream from Dr. Laplace. Um, and I have to agree too. I am also super biased. Actually, here's my GitHub plushie from Mana. I'm GitHub Campus Expert. I love GitHub in many, many ways. I have tumblers of GitHub. I have t-shirts of GitHub. I have a big community around GitHub. Um, so GitHub, it's cooler because GitHub, even though it's an enterprise and now it's part of Microsoft, it keeps community, and it has a big sense of, how to say this, of I don't want to say it in a wrong way, but they know what their community want, and they know how to build around community. And yeah, the Mona community, the GitHub Campus experts, the all GitHub communities around the world. I was once in the GitHub universe, and they all are so amazing in every aspect. So you may be thinking, hey, I thought Git was the same as GitHub. They have like the same name, right? Just one it's Hub and the other one it's just Git. I see one great comment here, and that's completely true. GitHub just turned 17 years yesterday, so we're celebrating the anniversary. And I'm also talking like I was part of GitHub. But yeah, actually, I'm part of GitHub in some sense because I'm GitHub campus expert, right? Um, yeah, so another good question, GitLab versus GitHub. Of course, I will say GitHub. And I know this can be hard, and there are big discussions here about like preferences. There's many others, Git Bucket, for example, GitLab. But let's be honest, the big industry standard is and it will be GitHub. So that's the thing to say here. Uh, GitHub is the best thing that happened in developer. Oh, I already read that. I use GitHub, but I still don't know the difference between Git and GitHub. Don't you worry, we will learn that in this slide. So, taking advantage of this comment, what's the difference between GitHub and Git? Well, Git, it's the virtual control system, right? It's a tool, a piece of software that allows you to track changes in your code, do things like branching, and you can use that in many ways in your local computer through your CLI. There are also graphic tools that allows you to do Git, but you can think of if a virtual control system doesn't make sense to you or sounds too technically, you can think of Git as when you do a document having version 1, version 111, version 111 dot final, version blah blah blah. It allows you to store these changes over the time, your history in your project, and that's what it is. And also, again, the thing of branching to have multiple versions of your projects, that's in our very rough version, the Git, what is Git. And now, on top of that, it is GitHub. GitHub is a cloud platform that allows you to connect your local Git repository in many other computers. So it takes the local repository to be a centralized repository in the cloud that you can connect and you can share with the world. Um, or not even with the world, because there also are private repositories, but with your team, let's say. So GitHub, it's the cloud platform for that. GitHub uses internally here the Git and provides the hosting and sharing tools, right? It can be accessed online everywhere, and you can think of it in the um, in the text scenario, like it was the Google Drive, right? So you can share your files with the rest of the world, with a specific team, or even with you in different computers. That's the difference here between Git and GitHub. So, Lumini, does that make sense? It clarifies the difference between Git and GitHub? Let me know. If no, I can try to explain better. Real. It's just me or your voice is not clear and audible. Oh, the audio seems okay to me. Okay, thank you. If you want me to repeat anything because my voice was interrupting or anything, just let me know in the comments. No problem. I can repeat it. GitHub is the industry standard. Can change that. Yeah, true facts here. So yeah, again, I'm super biased. I love GitHub, but I think I have reasons to love GitHub in many ways, same as you. So continuing with the slides, now we checked what is the difference between Git and GitHub. You can master it in an hour, right? We have resources for you, so you can check mlh.link/git trained and mlh.link/git to check our official guides around this, right? So why use GitHub? It has a lot of beneficial things, specifically GitHub, but what's the difference between other platforms? GitHub has a lot to offer. And I already mentioned some of these. The GitHub education, for example, GitHub education really has great initiatives all around the world. They are pushing for us, like in local communities, with the student developer packs, with campus experts, with if you're not a student, but also in enterprise, you can have a lot of tools, like for example the GitHub Actions, the GitHub projects, so you don't need to use Jira softwares in that cases. Um, the GitHub API, the GitHub CLI, the GitHub desktop, and they also have mobile, which I know it can sound like confusing, but it helps. It helps a lot. It has a great security things, like for example the code checker. So it had happened to me that I push a secret key to my repo, and I missed that. I completely missed that. And the GitHub scan or the code checker told me like, hey, are you sure you want to push this? Like it has a sensitive information and this repo is public, so that will be available to everyone. And I was like, oh my god, GitHub, thank you so much. You saved me. Um, the GitHub Copilot one. We have a GitHub Copilot session, and that will be free for you to use if you're a student through the GitHub Student Developer Pack, of course. But yeah, the point here is GitHub has a lot to offer. So now I convinced you about the GitHub to use GitHub, right? Plus, if you're a student, you have the Student Developer Pack, which has lots, but lots of free resources for you as student to access for professional tools for free. Again, you can get access to GitHub Copilot. You'll have GitHub Pro. That means also GitHub code spaces. You can access the Campus Expert program, the experience, because there are a lot of courses and stuff, even certifications. Now GitHub releasing certifications that you can get access for free, and then put it in your LinkedIn, of course. Um, GitHub pages, yeah, of course. Is that a question about what are GitHub pages? GitHub pages are a way you can host your static websites, and that's completely free. Um, where can we file all the applications GitHub Student Developer Pack it's connected to? Great question. mlh.link/GitHub. And you can access, actually, let's go for that. You will see GitHub Student Developer Pack. Also here, if you missed the previous link, mlh.link/GitHub, you will see. Okay, my internet's kind of taking a time to load, but you will see this takes to the same. Here I already registered. Actually, you will see I already submit 3 requests. First time I was applied, it was on October 24. No, October 23. Well, this one expired on October 24, and this one expired on October 9. I don't know. This doesn't make sense for me. But here you can see the value of this. What are all the tools that you can get? The foundations certification, and I'll just continue all the JetBrains IDs, name.com, Azure credits, Notion, Codex, the certification, Black courses, MongoDB offers, the GitLens. This is incredible, right? And a lot. Currently one of the ones I love the most is this one password one. But yeah, we can close this and we can continue with the slides, right? Well, I don't have a .edu mail. Don't worry. Um, you need to prove that you're a student, and there are many ways to do that. The email helps, but I know you can put in contact with the GitHub education team, and they can help you sort that, right? I love the way your browser looks. Hey, thank you so much. It's just Firefox, but styled my way. I don't have an email either. Okay, same. Don't worry. I know they can help you with that in the GitHub education team. Oh, I think this repeated. I love the way your browser looks. Again, thank you. Okay, perfect. Let's continue. So, let's summarize and let's start in the virtual control system, right? This is the question why you should use it. Now, I don't think I need to tell you about the benefits of having a virtual control system. You can easily relate to these problems of, hey, can you share me the latest version of your file? Or imagine you're working in a hackathon project, and with the rest of your team, you need to communicate these files. So I've seen this a lot, like they saying scripts or pieces of the code over WhatsApp, over email, sharing files in USB, blah blah blah, having like I don't know, many other ways to share the files, but you don't have a control. And let's say you have a function, yeah, a functional feature of your project, and then you share it with your teammate, and he moves something, or even in the copy pasting, something broke, right? And now you cannot return to what you had previously, and you have to work a lot and put more effort in returning, and that's a terrible thing, like not having a virtual control system in modern days. It's just awful. That's why, and this is a fun fact, the creator of Git, you know who he is? Linus Torvalds, sorry, the creator of Linux. And Git was actually created like a side project because Linus Torvalds needed a way to have a control over the great project of Linux. So he used to have a virtual control system, what that was sponsored by a company, but again, it was not a free tool, and he needed that sponsorship. Once the company, that I cannot recall the name, removed the sponsorship, he needed to pay for that. So he said, like, I'm not going to pay for that. I'm going to create my own virtual control system, and that will be open source and free and available for everyone. And that's Git. That's the great Git. So this introduction to the virtual control system, it looks roughly like this. You have a working directory, your computer, your local computer, a staging area, which is like which files you want to, or which changes to your project you want to encapsulate, and then put in the repository. So you have working directory, staging area, and the repo. That's how you commit, right? Because not at all cases, all the changes you want to make, you want to commit them, you want to put that in the local repository, right? So that's why this makes sense, because a lot of people, when they're beginning, they told me, like, why not directly from your working to the repository? You need the staging area to make sure the changes that you're doing are the ones that you want to put in that commit. So we are going to explain these like step by step, but the whole picture looks like this. Working directory, you git add to the staging area, you git commit to the local repository, and once you have that in your local repository, you git push to the remote repository, and that's where GitHub starts, or it's where GitHub enters the action, right? Also, let's say you're not only working for pushing your changes, but you want to get the changes from your team, right? So you git fetch, which is like a combination. Well, you git pull, which is like a combination of merging and fetching. All you can do that separately. Uh, then you have it in your local repository, and you have it in your working directory, right? So again, we're going to go step by for this, but let me check if you have questions this far. Sorry, could you drop the link again, please? The link again for what? For the GitHub Stone Developer Pack. It's mlh.link/GitHub. Oh, sorry, this was here in the screen. Okay. You can still have a GitHub Stone Developer Pack without a .edu account. I also did have a .edu when I applied for that. Yeah. Turbos has a big brain. Yeah, that he is amazing in many ways. But yeah, let's continue. So again, as I was saying, the working directory, it's like having a snapshot of your work, right? And the repository has many of these snapshots. It's like having a folder in. I know I'm going to make this example for many of you for being easier to relate. For the ones that already know Git, uh, don't worry. Imagine you have a folder and you start a text file. So you start writing your text file, and once you have a version of that text file that you want to um, save forever, you save a copy of that and you put it in a folder. So it's like version 1.0. Then you make changes and you save that in a version 2.0, then a version 3.0, then a version 4.0, then a version 5.0. The problem with this, it's again, you need to do a lot of things manually, and you don't have a staging area. You don't have something to say, oh, the changes I made over this version, I want changes A, but not changes B. So that's the problem with that. With a virtual control system, you have the ability to have the working directory, the staging area, and the local repo. So when you make these changes, you add them to these revisions in the staging area. There's a great advice that tells you don't think of Git commands. Think of Git concepts, and you will remember the commands, or you can look for the commands. That's not the problem. So you don't memorize Git add as a command, but you need to think that you need to move from the working directory to the staging area, right? Then once you're sure about your changes, you need, that's a great name, to commit over them. So you have to make them accessible to your local repository. How you need to do that, you add messages. And there's some advice I want to share with you. Don't just commit them without a message, or don't just put generic messages. Actually, there's no rule for doing this. But since there's no rule, there are many conventions. And there's one called conventional commits I want to share with you. Actually, let me share these links, because this will make your life easier. Not only yours, your team's, right? So conventional commit specification, it's a lightweight convention on top of commit messages. It provides easy use of rules for creating explicit commit history, blah blah blah. It says you want to make a fix, a feature, breaking changes, blah blah blah. There are some examples around here how to use it, and there's also this cheat sheet I want to share with you, which is a GitHub guest. For example, let's say you add a feature to the shopping cart application, and you say add the amazing button, something like that. Fix, you explain what you did. Build, release, the style, remove empty style line, blah blah blah. Well, here there's a way. to easily implement that. And I encourage you to take a look to this in the future, so your Git messages will be better. Okay, once you commit them with your commit messages, you need to push your changes not to be only accessible in your local repository, but for your remote repository. In this point where you commit it, yeah, you can move and you can go forward and backward in your history, but no one else but you can see that. In your remote repository, you can make that accessible to many, many others, right? Uh, when you move your local repository to a repo, then you normally in a workflow want to check if there are not only your changes but any other changes from your team members in the remote repo, right? So same as you're pushing changes, your teammates probably are pushing changes too. And if you're working in the same branch, and we're going to talk about branches in a moment, uh, you probably have some conflicts that you need to resolve, or probably not. It depends on if you're touching the same files and stuff, right? But yeah, that's all about the merge, like having the ability to not only push your local changes, but from pull them from the existing remote repository, so you can integrate them in the whole project you're working on. By design, these immediate areas allow us to work without any problems and affecting our working directory. Is there any limit for loading files into the remote repo? Just curious. Um, that's a great question. I'm I haven't reached any point where Git or GitHub told me like the size. I am thinking about size in, I don't know, megabytes, kilobytes, gigabytes. I'm not sure if there's any. We can check. That's a great question. Um, but normally we're talking about text files, right? So not much size. So now we're going to make the Git and Git walkthrough. I'm sorry, I probably need water, but I don't want to make a break because we're running out of time. We still have a lot to cover. Step one is install Git if you don't have it yet. For this, I want to share the Git official site. Here you're going to see downloads, download for Mac, and some instructions. But also, you can navigate to mlh.link/getgit. Actually, we're going to do that. And you will see the same kind of. So remember, navigate mlh.link/getgit. And follow the instructions depending on your operating system. For some users of Mac, that will be easier to use Brew. In Windows, you can use this, or you can download directly from the page, previously page, and that will download, if you're in user, something called the Git bash. So let's now understand how or where you can access Git, right? So in your terminal, if you're again in in Windows, you probably be better if you use the Git bash. It was downloaded in the previous step. If you're a Mac, you can use it any access terminal. The built-in terminal for Mac or Unix is great. Any Unix system in Linux. I mean, like, if you're in Linux, you probably know better than any of us. And the way you can make sure you have Git install, it's just saying Git version. Let me open myself my terminal. I'm using Hyper, which is CSH terminal. And here I'm going to say Git version. and I have this version installed. If you install right now, you probably have a more advanced version than me, 2.49. Yeah, I'm in 2.46, so yeah, it doesn't matter. Once you have it installed, you need to authenticate using GitHub from Git, but also there's a step I want you to consider, which is set up your configuration files for Git. And for that, I have this resource I want to share with you. This Get Started section from their documentation helps you make the configuration for your username and email. So I think that's important too. I'm going to paste that here. So you can get right on point for setting up a Git, right? And what else? Yeah, also to connect with GitHub from Git, there's another resource I want to share with you, which is the setup Git from the GitHub documentation. So here's the other link. Again, I was mentioning I was going to share a lot of resources, and there's a tool called the GitHub CLI. You will need to install also that tool. If you want to do that way, there's many ways you can connect from GitHub, and I have to admit, at first the terminal can be intimidating. Uh, when you see people running commands on terminal for the first time, you actually think they are hacking the NASA or Google or something like that. But let's lose fear to the terminal. And for that, I want to share with you another resource, which is the Linux Journey. This page is a great resource, and they have courses and guides to use a lot of things on Linux, but also this one specifically, the command line one. Take a look to this and lose fear to the command line, because a lot of things we're going to do here are through the command line. We're going to also share ways to do that via visual interface, more specifically with Visual Studio Code, but the command line, it's going to be your great ally when you're a developer. So lose fear to that, and here's the resource to learning in linuxjourney.com. So we can close these two now. So this says to us, for running in your own terminals, I'm going to clone a repo to make sure that I'm connected with Git and GitHub, right? So for me, that makes sense. For you, you probably need to connect it first with the resources are shared. So I'm going to move, let me make this bigger, to developers, which is a folder I store all my developer projects, and then to the global Hagwig API. Here I have my repository, which I prepared for the REST API that will be coming later today, but also I'm going to git clone and this repo. This is the HTTP way. Due to my own configuration, I cannot do HTTP. I need to use SSH. And since I work in many places, I need to add this .me, but that's just my configuration. Again, there are many ways you can clone a project, which is via HTTP, the SSH, the GitHub CLI, if you have already that installed, and also with GitHub Desktop, right? Also, the code spaces that allows you to connect to cloud machine with your Visual Studio configuration, which is just great. That's why GitHub rocks, right? But hey, right now let's do that locally, and I'm cloning that. Now we can cd to that intro to Git, and let's open that in Visual Studio Code. Perfect. Now we have a README, which tell us if you see this, your Git clone was successfully. That's a great thing to know, right? So we can close this and we can return now to the slides. Uh, Again, if you have any problems during these, don't worry. Take a look to the resources I shared. Also, in the Discord, we are going to be very active, trying to reply to all the questions you may have. Step 2, we know now we have our Git, local Git and GitHub connected. So now let's create a local repository. For that, I'm going to return to this terminal, and in the same folder, well, no, in the previous folder, intro to Git, GitHub API, I'm going to create my first repo. So again, don't fear the terminal. For creating a file, it's simple as mkdir. Oh, my first repo. Now let's move to the first repo. And here we are going to initialize the repository. And it says initialize git empty repository. How we can prove that we have this initialized? Well, my terminal already told me I'm on the main, but yours probably don't because you don't have that so much personalized. There's a command that which is ls minus la, and here this what it means. It shows you all files, included um, the not publicly sure how to say that, the hidden files, yeah. So .git, and that's where your repository lives. Now we're going to make a file. For doing that, again, I'm going to do that in the terminal, but also I'm going to do that in the VS Code. So don't worry. This is sweet and easy steps to lose fear to the terminal and start sharing and creating with your own way, right? So in terminal, here I'm going to see that I can create doing echo, and this is my, what's the message? My feed repository. Repository. And the output, we are going to send that to readme.md. And how we see that? Well, less is more, right? So less readme. And we can see my field repository. That's perfect. There are many ways in the terminal how you can visualize. Even there's embedded code editors like Nano and Beam, also NeoBeam. So we can say Beam readme, and we can see this also. There's no true that's complicated to exit Beam. It's just escape, double dot, and Q as quit, right? Easy as that. But also we can do that in the Visual Studio Code. If I open, well, let's see my files again. You know, here's the README file. I'm going to delete that. I already delete that. If I see again, there's no files. But let's open here in Visual Studio Code and add a new file. Oh, also I forgot there's another way, which is touch. Touch and readme.md. Well, again, I was saying there are many ways to create files, but right now we are going to do that in the Visual Studio Code simple way. Read me dot markdown created, and here, oh, sorry, we are going to add same my first repo. Perfect. Now I'm going to show this first on the Visual 8 in Visual Studio Code, then on Terminal. But we're going to visualize how these can represent the working directory, the staging area, and the repository. We see here in this integration, and this is the source control. If you don't see this in your Visual Studio Code, don't worry, just go to the extensions or the plugins and look for source control. Now I think this already came with Visual Studio Code, but don't worry, you will see this. Here we have some changes. These changes are not yet on the staging area, so we need to add them. I can add all the changes, in this case just one, and here you will see stage all changes, or I can add one by one. Let's do that. So in the staging area, now I have this change, and next it's just to commit that. Remember, for commit we need a message. The message we're going to write here. So I'm going to say init to our first repo, and I'm going to commit that. That's perfect. And now I'm in this point. Let me return. I add my change of the file, I commit that, and this is living now in my local repository. But I need to push that to our remote. And that's a thing of connecting GitHub. So let's now navigate to github.com. And create a new repository. This is how my GitHub looks like, by the way. And this is going to be, well, it doesn't name, it doesn't matter. My first repo. Make sure make this public. Do not add a README file here because we are already adding that README file in the local repository. Do not add the git ignore because that will be, well, not do this here. If you first create your repository in local, then it will make sense to create all of these in the local one. There's an alternative to create first the remote and then pull that or clone that in your local. So there are many ways again to work. It depends on your preference, your personal workflows. But for this moment, which we created the local repository first, do not add any of this and create a repository, and you will see that GitHub is cooler because it gives you the instructions to connect with your local one. So many options here, but one says create a new repository in the command line or push an existing repository. This is the option we have. Remember, we already have a local repository, so we need to push that here to be a remote one. So we need to remote add the origin, GitHub, blah, 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 and let's say that. And in order to do that, we are going to say git status, nothing to commit here, git or remote -b, there is no remote, so we are going to add these remotes. And let's see the remote. Now we have an origin for fetch and push because we can have difference, but hey, don't worry at the moment. Now we need to push that. Git push origin main, right? And now we can refresh our GitHub. And here is my first repo. Crazy, isn't it? Well, not crazy, just great pieces of software working together. Great Git and coolest GitHub. Now, can you create a repo from the terminal? Yeah, of course. Actually, we did create the repo from the terminal. Remember the git init command? That's creating repo, actually. You're crying? Why are you crying? Hey, don't worry. This can be overwhelming, but with the time, it will be easier. I swear. And with the resources we are sharing here at the Mainly Hacking, it will be a sweet path to you mastering Git and GitHub. If you have any questions, don't worry. Just feel free to ask here during the stream. But also, the Mainly Hacking community in Discord, it's phenomenal. I am sure they are going to help you with many of your problems. Like, how does this work? What you mean? I mean, like, you need to be more specifically. I mean, creating the remote repo. Um, how does it looks log in out GitHub account? Well, again, I was saying there are many ways. I share with you the official documentation for from GitHub on how to do that. Even here in my Visual Studio Code, you're probably seeing these accounts. So I have my account connected, you see? So this connection in Visual Studio Code, it's what made me able to to publish the branch. Actually, let's do the opposite. Remember, we made a change in the Visual Studio Code, and we commit that and we add that to the staging in Visual Studio, but we push it in the terminal, right? We're going to do the opposite. So here I'm going to beam another, let's say, index.js. I'm going to add, I don't know, like alert. I'm adding code to the repo and save that. Now we have changes. So we said git status. The most sim. Oh, I'm sorry. We have on-track changes in the index.js file. So let's add the index.js file. This will be the same in terminal as the plus button we hit on Visual Studio Code. And now we need to commit that. So let's git commit with a message. And the message will be we added a change and committing it in the terminal. Sorry, I am miswriting it all. Commit, yeah. And now git status tell us there's nothing to me, your working directory is free, but still this is not reflected on our remote repository, right? We need to push that. So we can come back and we can publish the changes here to main, and I am already do that. And now this actually tells us this is on cloud. Now I can come back here, refresh, and I have the index.js file, right? So we did exactly the same in the terminal and in the Visual Studio Code source control 8. The screen is blocked by the message. Oh, okay. Sorry, but don't worry. I can return to the terminal and you will see the comments I run. Right? This is the history of the comments I run. Remember, beam index to add the file, status to check it, add it to the staging area, commit it to the repository, and then push it to the remote repository. Well, no, the push it was here in the publish. And well, that's how this works. So we already covered this. We clone that, we add it in GitHub, and to connect that, again, check that you are connected in your account. Same as the way we were checking on the CLI. Here, for example, I can take a look that we are on the main branch. And talking about branches, I think that's a good way to start talking about them, actually. Let me take a look and let's do that a little quick because probably we are interfering with someone time. Well, I think the UT with the first part here. Effectively branching. Experience overwritten code when coding on the team? Well, this branching can solve your problem. So right now, we already cover remote repositories and local repositories, the working directory, staging, and the repository itself. So that's the whole Git experience. But there's an addition to that, which are called the branches that can help you resolve a lot of things. So let's say, and also there are conventions on how to branch effectively. Previously, I didn't prepare the resource to share with you, but you can look for Git flow. Git flow, and it will give you, for example, the convention on how to use the main branch, the develop branch, and the feature branches to apply and combine all your different integrations to create your project. The first that you will have, it's the main branch, formerly known as the master, but hey, we need to change that, of course. And it's the foundation on how this works. You will always have the main branch, and that's the head of your project. Then you can branch out from that, and let's say in this case, the custom pyramid feature branch, right? You work on enhances of your code in that branches, and then you need to return to the main branch. That will be the concept of merging. uh, you can do this locally, or you can do that in GitHub through a thing called the pull request. And that's a great convention because you need to make sure there are not conflicts, and even though a team of yours can help you review that and approving that to make sure that will work in the whole picture. That's called the code reviews, right? So when you're doing code reviews, you're making pull requests. Once your code review is approved, it's merged into the main or any other branch that you're pushing to, and that is the history of your project. Understand branching? Let's resume that. When you want to collaborate, well, sorry, no, let's resume that in a second. Um, you can have the main that it has the truth of your project, but to not break the whole project, you start branching to develop new features, fixes, or any other applications that you may occur to. And once you have them, you can test them, you can try it in other branches, and finally merging that to the main to make sure your project always works. Again, I know it's a lot of things to have in a small time, but don't worry, you will understand that, and we can help. And right now, we just wanted to introduce you to the concept, and if you have further questions, just ask. For collaboration, uh, I want you to form a group of two, select one repository, and if your repo was selected, share the remote repository with your partner. Navigate to this instead of your instead of the username or repo, just how to say that, put your handle and the repo you created, and in the settings and access at your partner's GitHub, right? So this is how you can give access to others to your personal projects. Another way, of course, I know I told this many times, but always there are many ways. You can fork someone's repo and make changes over that, and then after that you can pull requests to the author, to the original repo. But hey, forking and that, there are more how to say that, complex things. So for the moment, don't worry, these are ways, easy ways, or how you can collaborate in GitHub. Once you make these changes, your partner will receive the pull request, and you can attempt to push them. And here an intentional error will occur because not all the times there will be no problems, and these are called conflicts. To handle these merge conflicts, what you need to do, you can handle them in GitHub, but I don't recommend doing that unless there's a really simple change. I recommend you to open Visual Studio Code or any other text editor you may be doing and check the differences and make sure, in this case with your collaborator or any other person in your team, that which are the changes you want to conserve, right? And for example, in this, they say apple, mango, and banana. If we have a different one, pineapple, orange, and banana, which one we want to conserve? The mango, the apple, or the banana? So that's differences, right? The code visual Git doesn't know which one is correct because there's no one correct. It depends on your preferences. So you need to again put in contact, discuss this, resolve the conflict, and say we want to conserve the orange and the banana. Oh, sorry, orange and banana are the same. So what do you want to conserve? Watermelon or pineapple? Well, in this case, this is how the conflict looks like. Again, in Visual Studio Code, delete the ones you don't want and make sure you have the one you want. Once you confirm that you can commit it, and you now resolve the conflict. And the message of that commit will be that resolving the conflict. Don't you worry. So you need, again, to make sure everything's fine with the repo by pulling the recent changes, that you don't have any other conflict appearing, and push the final code, and you will see that reflected in your Visual Studio Code. And that's it. Thanks for attending this workshop. I know the late part was kind of rushy, but I tried to put as much information as I could for you to check later. Let's see if you have any questions before we finalize the session, and that will be all. Thanks. What is the purpose of staging your changes prior to committing them? Are they typically processes done while files are staged? Yes, the answer is yes. And I mentioned this question is oftenly asked by many people, but you stage, for example, and you don't not always want to commit over all messages. So I normally stage only the ones I want to commit. You can do more complicated things like there's one called, oh, I forgot the name. And then this is why you should learn not the comments but the concepts. But let's say I just want to conserve or commit over changes A, not changes B. So I remove changes B, stage changes A, and then commit them. And I move to other branch, and the B that I was conserving, I put them. I think it's called stash now, I remember. Yeah, so I stash them, I put them in another branch, maybe for later work, and maybe I put that in a pull request. So it will depend a lot on the working flow that you may be following, but the answer is yes. It's very important to have a staging, because not all the times it will be as simple as this, because this was a simplified example. You just stage the file and commit them directly after that. Not that will be the case every time, right? Also, once the changes are on cloud, do they stay locally as well? The answer is yes. They will stay locally, and if you move to another branch based or departing on the branch you have the changes, they will stay in that branch also. If you created a branch previous to committing and pushing those, and you move to that branch, you won't see your changes, because it has another version of the history of your project, not with that commit. For that, you will have to merge that for either from the remote repository or from the local branch that you have. That's it. You will see that. Hey, hello, 404. Great to see you. I didn't see you before. I think you didn't comment. I don't know if you're just arriving, but it's great to always see you. Thanks, Alberto. It was a great session. Thanks for crying fire dubs too. Hey, no worries. That's my job. Thank you too. Thank you, Alberto. Hey, thanks a lot. Hey everyone, I have already deployed in Vercel, but it's now want to deploy in Azure. What's the process of that? I think this is maybe for another session. But hey, thanks a lot for attending. Again, help us giving us your feedback. Also, we love your feedback, and well, I think that was a great session too because I get to see a lot of your comments and you being so active on chat. So stay tuned for what's coming up in Global Hack Week. Let me remove my screen and now put myself back in here. Oh, why I'm not there? Okay, now I'm there. And well, that'll be it. Make sure you stay for Docker as API with Charbel. And I'm also having a later session today with the introduction to REST API. So hope you see you there too. It was my pleasure. Thank you. Bye.